Welcome to Comic Talkers, where comics is always the top of our discussion. My name is Brandon.
And I'm Mary.
And today we continue on with our 52 book club, which, by the way, if you haven't listened into weeks 1 through 11 at this point, we are hitting into week 12. So we'll give you a moment. We'll give you a moment. Go take a look at it. See what you think about it. We'll wait for a couple seconds, right? We got it. Okay, they're back. Let's just go right back into it. Again, this is the event that takes place in between Infinite Crisis and 1 year later. And we start off this week with Renee Montoya. Now, last week, of course, she gets into another fight that introduces Batwoman to her a little bit, along with Vic Sage still being a smart aleck to her at all times. But this week, we start off with her standing outside GCPD as here comes Captain Sawyer, which we saw, I want to say it was back in week 7 or week 6, where she discusses that she needs to stay out of this. Let the pros do this. You're no longer a detective. Stay out of it. So, of course, she kind of reveals that she's one of them that's been behind this whole Intergang situation. That she's one of them that went to investigate and everything like that. And she thinks she's all good and stuff. But Sawyer kind of tells her off and says, because of you, nothing is left at the office but staples and broken glass. So now Intergang knows we're on them, and we don't even have the first idea of how to stop them. And if they are after Gotham, you can be damn sure they'll be back. And she states this, and this is what I love too. You gave up your badge, Renee. Nobody took it from you. Remember that the next time you decide to play hero. And walks away. Mind you, this scene is the only time we're going to see her, because at this point we do see her turn to go back to, what was it, her apartment. Her relationship with Vic, I swear, is one of my favorites still to this day. Walks in and says, "Hi, honey, I'm home." And Vic is sitting in the middle of the room naked, meditating. Now,
Or as he calls it, going inside.
Now, again, this is where we see Renee's internal monologue really take place. And she says, like, taking a good look at myself is something I would actually want to do right now. Like, that would answer the question of who the hell I am and what am I doing with my life. Intergang, Wolfman, Snake, Fatal, Batwoman questions. Thing is, Maggie's right. No way Intergang's giving up. They'll be back if they're not still here. They're moving weapons and people into Gotham. The only real way to fight that is to cut it off at the source. So what's the source of their weapons and their people when both are easy enough to come by? She continues to go on, but she does finally go off and say, anytime you want to state the obvious is fine by me, Charlie. With Vic finally coming out and saying, all right, you win, we'll go to Kahndaq. Now, why going to Kahndaq? Because there is a link to Kahndaq right now with Intergang. So, of course, they're questioning things right now. So, it's one of those things, and that's why I love Renee's internal monologue, is the fact that you see her really becoming what the question is. And that's what's so interesting in the story, to see that. Do you agree, Mary, or what do you feel about Renee's story there?
Yeah, no, that's one of the things I really love about it, is not just the way that Vic keeps pushing her to continuously question, which is really the heart of what the question is. That's why he's named that.
Mm-hmm.
But starting to see Renee do it on her own,
Yeah.
is sort of taking her out of that mentality of getting enough answers
Yeah.
to get a case finished, and instead looking for all of the answers.
That's why I said it's one of those things. Like, of course, he goes by Charlie, he goes by Charles, he goes by Vic, and that's where you'll hear us say Vic, because that's what we know him more as. But he is Charlie. That's where you hear him different names come into play as well. But we are going to turn to a different story now. This is the only time, like we say, we're going to see Renee in this story, in this issue. But we go to Kahndaq. Now, Kahndaq, of course, being ruled, or having the ruler of Black Adam at this point. And this little Kahndaq village is right now pretty much going to get flooded, everything like that. And Black Adam comes in and saves the day. He does save him by pretty much changing the course of the river, which would provide them with water, of course, recommended by Adriana Tomaz. So it's coming into flood, but at the same time, it's actually waving in a new current to bring water and resources to it. So Black Adam finds a bad thing, turns it to a good thing. But, he even mentions that he never realized, and he says this through Adriana, he never realized this village was in need. And Adriana makes him realize that it is because of him fighting American heroes, gathering countries in a coalition, but she makes it known to him that he has bettered their lives, and he can do so much more with his powers than what he's doing with them. This is why I love Adriana Tomaz, because she's such a great influence to him and makes him realize that the things you're doing is wrong. It's not that the things he's doing is wrong, but it's the way he's going about it is wrong.
His goals are noble for the most part.
Yeah.
But the way he's going about them is so fueled by his own trauma that
Yes.
he is unable to see the forest for the trees.
Right. And, of course, she makes it known to him, and they travel back to his palace. Now, as his advisors come to let him know that things are happening, he pretty much tells them to leave them alone. They have business right now going on. So what's interesting is that he takes her to a shrine. Now, this shrine is of his wife and his 2 kids before. And Black Adam explains that, and I'm going to quote this, a few years after the wizard bestowed me with these powers, my wife and sons were murdered. They were killed by an enemy I should have destroyed long before. I destroyed their tomb in a battle with the Justice Society of America. I was blinded by rage, by loss. You have to understand, I execute so no one else will fill the emptiness that I do, that you surely do. Intergang killed your family when they kidnapped you. They sold your younger brother into slavery. Where is your anger, Adriana? And she goes, I'm not angry. And she goes, I'm not sure what I feel. Mostly alone. This is the true motivation between Black Adam, and I love that part of it. It's the fact that he does it so nobody else has to suffer what he's went through. What do you think about Black Adam's kind of backstory on that one?
See, in a lot of ways, I understand that. Um, but I do think it's one of those things where instead of actually searching for healing and then continuing to strive to ensure that no one else suffers, he instead wallows in his pain.
Yeah.
Um, in a lot of ways, this might get me in some hot water. I tend to think of Black Adam as what Batman could be if he had superpowers. Instead of healing, he instead focuses on it entirely. Um, Obviously, there's differences where Black Adam lives in a country that was under dictatorial rule and has to overtake it, and everything that goes in with that. There's a lot more differences between them, but in the core of like their backstory wise and how that impacts their character. Um,
Now, here's what's interesting later on too, is that you see him have a scarab in his hand. Now, this will play a major part here later in this issue, but he opens this little passageway and tells her to pretty much follow him. And pretty much he's, of course she asks, where does this tunnel take us, or this palace, or, tunnel? And she goes, far away from the palace and from Kahndaq. They walk down and he yells out the name Billy. Mary, who is he talking to at this point?
talking to Captain Marvel,
He is talking to Captain.
who is having a very, very bad time.
I love the artwork for him because his eyes are just like those beady little eyes running around.
Um, if you know anything about Billy Batson, you know he's a people person. So it should come as no surprise that when he's essentially in isolation, um, looking over
Rock of Eternity.
Rock of Eternity, he's not handling it well.
No. And
The wizard is gone. And now Billy has to look over the Rock of Eternity as Captain Marvel, as is his duty, and he is struggling. My dude is the driver and sole passenger of the struggle bus. um,
yeah. we see him also guard that he's guarding the seven deadly sins, or the seven deadly sins to man. And you can see that they're tormenting him every step of the way.
That was something interesting too that I noticed is that in other iterations that we see of the Rock of Eternity, it's not lust but selfishness.
Yeah.
And the fact that lust is specifically used here, I think, was something that I took note of.
Like this whole scene, like mind you, it is a very serious scene, but it makes you laugh so hard because he says, now the seven sins and the power within the rock are under my watch. And Black Adam states something interesting. I want to see if you caught this. I see Shazam's name no longer ignites a transformation in either of us. And he says, and Shazam kind of responds back to him and says, or Captain Marvel at this point, it will again once you leave the rock. It took me time to adjust to Shazam's power. Have you come to tear me in half too? Because mind you, back in week 3, he does tear Terror Man in half. And Black Adam goes, of course not. I'm not here to fight. I'm not your enemy anymore, Billy. And of course, Billy asks who's his friend, and she goes, I'm Adriana Tomaz, with him, Billy responding back with quiet. Now, we think he's yelling at her, but we find out he's actually yelling at Lust. And he goes, these are my guests, and you shut up now. That's rude, Lust. It's just showing you how this is really beating him up. And
Not doing well.
no, it's like Mary says, this dude is struggling. He is the path, he's the driver of the struggle bus. And now, and you hear him talk about to Adriana, he says, sitting on this throne, you hear the sins chatter, and they're awfully mean. Anyway, I'm very pleased to meet you, Adriana. What brings you both here to the Rock of Eternity? Now, this is where we find out something interesting about the scarab that Black Adam's holding. He says, and I quote, when Shazam believed I'd been corrupted by his power, he imprisoned me in the scarab for over 1,000 years. But my powers weren't the only ones that dwelled within the scarab. This jewel, this amulet fastened to the back, it contained the power of another one of Shazam's champions from ancient Egypt. I want to get that power to Adriana, with, of course, her freaking out. But he states, I want to invite her into the Marvel family. Now, we turn to the only scene we see of one of Mary's favorite characters in this series, Elongated Man, or Ralph Dibny. So, Mary, why don't you take the mic before we go back to Black Adam and Adriana?
Ralph has followed Cassie Sandsmark to Philadelphia. And we see the Titans group chat, which has 155 texts that she has apparently not been responding to. Say, Wonder Girl, the Titans need you. Please respond. Cassie, where are you? As she's walking into her dilapidated apartment to find Ralph Dibny sitting on her couch.
My boy be creeping.
To be fair, her aliases were very bad.
Yeah.
Calling herself Donna Prince. Hello? Anyone who knows you could find you, Cassie. Like that is
Miss Donna Pentagon.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. And of course we also see Ralph being like, find you. That's where people always got me confused with Plastic Man. He is the clown, which is deserved. And then he tells her that her gang got sloppy when they robbed his wife's personal effects. Between the DNA you left, the satellite photography, checking the flight path of a superhuman roughly your size, well, you were practically screaming to be followed. And then Ralph sort of learns that what they're trying to do is use Sue as a trial run of bringing people back to life from the dead. In order to do that, they had to have personal effects, So they had been in close contact with the deceased, so hair, lockets, or clothing, hence Sue's suit. But they also had to have something far more personal and intimate than a wardrobe, so they stole his wedding ring. And she apologizes for tricking him, but she thought that he'd never submit to this willingly. And he says, "You were wrong." She says, "What?" He says, "You were wrong. You want to resurrect my wife from the dead, Cassie? Let me help."
This is one of the sad scenes too, because like we said, Ralph does have probably one of the saddest stories in this. And mind you, this takes place after the events of Identity Crisis. And we talk a little bit about that in week 10, where we discuss, or week, actually not week 10, week 9, where we discuss what happened in the events of Identity Crisis, which involves Sue Dibny's death. And it just shows you how elongated man really is taken to this role and just goes, it shows you how sympathetic he is and how relatable he is as a character too. Like, I think all of us, if given that chance, we would do that as well. We can never say that we wouldn't. But his face alone,
Also, everything he's even stated, I'm pretty sure in this storyline that he would do anything to have her back.
yeah, and his face alone tears me up. It really does. It's just that face alone that just shows you that he would do anything to bring her his one loved one back. So, and this will lead into issue 13, which we'll discuss next week, regarding Ralph Dibny and where this goes. But we do turn back to Black Adam. Now, he continues to state what this amulet is. The magics within this amulet were gathered by Egypt's most powerful goddess, Isis. During the 15th dynasty, the Queen Pharaoh,
Hatshepsut.
thank you, he states, was gifted with this great power, brought peace, pretty much it brought peace throughout the kingdom. After her death, the powers returned to this amulet, where they still are, waiting for her next champion, you, Adriana. The Sin see in Shazam kind of continues on and says the Sin see few flaws in her, and Solomon tells me she has had a profound effect on you that will only grow. She is worthy. She has only to take the amulet in, and she kind of stops him. And of course, you see him go crazy again. And she goes, you want to make me like you? And Adam says, you'll be more powerful than I. Adriana, you'll be a goddess. I'm not a goddess, she says. I'm just a woman. That's all I want to be. And this is why I love this whole relationship between the two, because Adam explains why she should be this. And he states, think of what you'll be able to do for the people and for yourself. Nothing will be able to stop you. You'll never be hurt again by anything or anyone again. But power corrupts, she goes. It need not. You said it that yourself. You've only just begun to show me a new way. I need your help. I need someone at my side. Then you see Shazam looking like he's so stinking tired of all this. And he goes, take the amulet, Adriana. Let the words flow into you. Like, he just sounds like that personality. Like, he's just tired of all this. And he goes, and through you. And she goes, I hear a simple prayer. Black Adam states, say it. And she yells out, I am Isis, and turns into her goddess form. Which, by the way, it's not, I actually didn't mind that design. I kind of thought it kind of mixed well with what Black Adam is. I kind of thought it just, what did you think about her design? I know it's a little bit revealing, but it's not overly revealing, I guess is a good way to put it.
It's definitely kind of like that thing that you would see in like a 1940s or 50s Hollywood movie about ancient Egypt. It feels very much like a Silver Age costume adapted into like a 1990s feel. Um, it's like something you would see walking off the set of The Mummy.
Right.
So I didn't mind that because I love The Mummy.
Yeah. Now we turn to, of course, she turns into her form. You know, of course, he goes, Adrian, or Black Adam comes up to Adriana, and she goes, no, Teth, call me by my new name. And of course, he sees Shazam still going insane. Stop snoring, sloth. You know, and and you can stop bragging, pride. The whole affair has nothing to do with you. It's just one of those stupid things that they continue doing. Now she's somewhat excited. Now she's got all this power, everything like that, and she goes, "Nature is calling me. Ask me what it can do to help me on crusade." And Black Adam holds her hands and says, "I'm hoping it will be our crusade. Help me, Isis. Help me change the world for the better." And she goes, "I will, Adam. I will join you in your mission as soon as we find my brother." And this ends the main issue of the story. Now, like we said last week, that was the end of the history of the DCU, but we do turn to origin stories now. And this week is Wonder Woman. Now, of course, they go into the main stories of her, how she came to birth, um, and what she becomes. And it states, for centuries, the race of warrior women known as the Amazons secluded themselves on the remote island of the Mascara. Over the years, under the tutelage of the goddess Aphrodite and their queen Hippolyta, the Amazons mastered the peaceful teachings of Gaia, the Earth Mother. Eventually, Hippolyta's prayer for a daughter who would fully embody the Amazon spirit were granted. The Grecian gods commanded Hippolyta to carve the child of her dreams from clay, then brought the infant to life, gifting the Princess Diana with powers and abilities equal to their own. And they kind of go into her stories when she comes to Earth, what she's done to change things. But these are what I love about it. And then you have her powers and weapons, her essential storylines, and her alliances. And that's what I love about this too, is you get to see things like this. Of course, her powers and weapons, Wonder Woman possesses godlike strength, speed, and vulnerability, and the ability to fly. She is a skilled swordswoman, and like her namesake, it is a master of the hunt and at communing with animals. Wonder Woman's arsenal includes a magic lasso which compels its captives to speak the truth, a boomerang tiara that can cut through diamond, and bracelets that can deflect gunfire. Her essential storylines is Wonder Woman Archives, Volume 1 through 4, Wonder Woman Gods and Mortals, Wonder Woman the Hecate, and Wonder Woman Eyes of the Gorgon. And of course, her alliances is the Justice League of America. Now, this ends this week's issue. As always, you can listen to weeks 1 through 11 at this point on YouTube through the playlist. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell notification so you never miss an episode. You can find Mary, myself, Will, and our other teammates and guests as we discuss great comic book content and anime content on our normal podcast, Comic Talkers, which you can listen to on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Comic Talkers to get all the latest updates and join in on the conversation with us. And without further ado, my name is Brandon.
And I'm Mary.
And may comics always be the top of your discussion.